The Law and You. A look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You. Presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, greetings. Welcome to another presentation in this public service nation building series, The Law and You. This is program number 824, coming to you on Monday the 25th of April 2016. On this program, as promised, I will be speaking to you on the topic child abuse. But before getting into the topic, a few preliminary comments. Beginning with deepest condolences to two families which have lost family members in the recent past, one on Friday and one on Saturday night. On Friday, the legal fraternity was stunned with the dreadful and unexpected news that retired High Court Judge Mr. Justice Frederick Bruce Lyle had died in Trinidad. Up to this morning, when I went to court and mingled with my colleagues, we were all still in a daze with grief. Justice Bruce Lyle was recruited into the legal system in St. Vincent and the Grenadines when I was Attorney General. In fact, I had some input into his recruitment. He served as a magistrate, then he went on to the Leeward Islands and served as a magistrate, from whence he was promoted as a High Court judge, and he was sent back to St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the last stint of his judicial career. Married to a Vincentian, Mrs. Euchrista Bruce Lyle, formerly Euchrista St-Hilaire of Rosebank. And I want to extend deepest condolences on behalf of myself and the members of my chambers to Mrs. Euchrista Bruce Lyle and the children of their family. We have not yet heard the details of the funeral arrangements, but I'm sure he'll be given a state funeral, and you will hear more about that giant of a man, though shortish in stature. Hailed from Ghana, and from him we learned quite a lot about our African ancestry. I am still deeply saddened by that loss, especially as it was only week before the last when the Prime Minister indicated to me that Cabinet had decided to appoint Justice Bruce Lyle to serve as one of the appeal commissioners, hearing appeals in income tax matters. And we discussed the matter, and Justice Bruce Lyle's name was published in an issue of the Gazette, which came out, I think it was on Friday the 15th, as a member of the appeal commissioners. How sad these things are. Death is something to which we can never get accustomed. And as if that was not enough, I went to church on Sunday morning at St. Elizabeth Cathedral where we had a requiem mass for those who have served in the vineyard and have passed on. And the first news that greeted me when I got into church from Bishop Selwyn Brung of Mount Sinai Spiritual Baptist Church was that our beloved mother, Yvonne Trimmingham, had passed on. We knew she had been ailing, had had problems, but the people of Collins especially would mourn her loss in a very, very special way. She was a deaconess in our archdiocese and was one of the stalwarts of the Spiritual Baptist community. Again, the details of the funeral have not yet been released, but we mourn the loss of our Mother Trimmingham. But the good Lord knows best. The good Lord knows best. And He has said in His word that precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of His saints. Excuse me. On the other hand, I'm glad that Sister Althea Peters, Deaconess Althea Peters, popularly known as Sister Nan, is now back out of hospital. Sister Nan, we wish you God's richest blessings, and we commend you to His care. Greetings also to our Patriarch, King Edmund John, and Mother John. Now, I want to say thank you to the authorities. Last Monday, those of you who saw the land you would have heard me lament the state of affairs on Halifax Street, popularly known as Back Street, outside the former Treasury building, which had a fire recently. I lamented that the sidewalk had been cordoned off, no doubt by the police, leaving pedestrians nowhere to walk but right down in the street. Well, over the weekend, the matter has been attended to. There is a very attractive plywood barrier, and pedestrians can walk in safety. That is, those who want to walk in safety, because as I drove from Kingstown to come up Dorsetshire Hill today to this program, most of the grammar school boys walking along the sidewalk chose to go back down into the street, ignoring the sidewalk, which was not extraordinarily crowded, but they simply wanted to walk in the street without any regard to their safety. Schoolboys. So thank you to the authorities. Who knows, maybe this was all planned, but nevertheless it is good to see that something has been done to make it safe for pedestrians to cross that part of the town, to use the sidewalk. And speaking about traffic, this morning before I went to court, I was listening as usual to NBC. I seldom listen to any other radio station. In fact, I wouldn't be able to find them on the dial. And listen to my good friend and brother, Desi Arundel, announce asking the drivers of 3 motor vehicles, and he called out the numbers, please to come and remove their vehicles because they were blocking the entrance to the National Broadcasting Corporation. Now, there has been an epidemic of bad manners when it comes to driving and parking in Kingstown. People seem to want to park anywhere. But you want to tell me people will see the entrance to the NBC compound opposite the prep school and between the prep school and Thompson Home and park a vehicle in such a way that no one can get in or out and leave the vehicle and go away? I don't know. I've never seen the state of affairs as bad as it has been these days. I hope the drivers did respond and did come to move their vehicles. There's very few things are as annoying and make you almost want to lose your temper than returning to your car properly and legally parked and finding you can't move because somebody is blocking you who is parked illegally. Sometimes you're in a hurry. You look at the vehicle number, you don't know whose vehicle it is. You don't know who to call. You just have to wait there fuming. And most times when the driver comes, they look at you, and if you say anything, you're going to get an earful. So sometimes you just have to shake your head, because once you complain, they're casting doubts on your maternity. So let us be a bit more considerate when we drive our vehicles and when we park our vehicles. All right, child abuse. This month, April, has been designated Child Abuse Awareness Month. And in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, there were very many activities aimed at highlighting the various aspects of child abuse that should engage our attention, drawing attention to the various laws which have been passed. Some have been on the books for a long time, some have been passed in recent years, aimed at dealing with what has become a very serious issue. The incidents of abuse of children are very, very many and seemingly growing. But these problems are complex problems, because in almost every case where a child is being abused, somebody in the household is aware that the child is being abused by somebody else. But nobody talks. And if a complaint is made to the police, nobody gives any information. And even if they give information and the case is made on the alleged abuse of the child, many of the witnesses, having given their statements to the police, do not turn up when the case is being heard. And for lack of evidence, the abusers go free to continue interfering with children. The incidence of the molestation of underage girls is ridiculous. If you want to know what is going on, speak to a nurse who works in the maternity ward of the Milton Cater Memorial Hospital. And the nurses there will tell you the instances of young girls, 12, 13, and 14, coming to the hospital to have babies. Whenever a child is impregnated, that is child abuse. Not only that, it is a criminal offense. Anytime a child of under 15 is impregnated, some man has committed a criminal offense punishable by imprisonment. But it isn't that people in the home don't know or suspect very strongly what is going on. It is that they don't want to speak. They don't want their name called up. They don't want anybody to get vexed with them. Sometimes they are threatened that if they speak, this and that will happen to them. So we have child abuse in many forms: sexual abuse, physical abuse in terms of beatings, merciless and brutal beatings, psychological abuse in terms of the denigrating of these children, cussing them and telling them all sorts of hurtful things at their tender ages. And then there is a particularly hurtful form of child abuse to which I must draw attention. That is the abuse by fathers who do not maintain their children. Anytime a father doesn't mind his children, he is guilty of child abuse. And you don't have to wait till a maintenance order is made against you in the family court or in the magistrate's court. Once you know a child is yours, or you have no reason to doubt that a child is yours, and you are in a position to assist in maintaining the child, you ought to do so. So failure to maintain children is a serious form of child abuse. The problem is that our resources as a nation do not permit us to employ the numbers of persons necessary to police a system of protection. I was very thrilled last week, Tuesday, when the government announced a special policy in conjunction with UNICEF, United Nations Emergency Children's Fund, and announced a special policy for the protection of children. And Honorable Frederick Stevenson, you're on the right path. Congratulations for spearheading these endeavors, and I wish you and your officials all the very best. Now, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have a plethora of laws dealing with children. In fact, our laws are as up to date as any other place in the Caribbean, in the Commonwealth Caribbean. Our Domestic Violence Act, our Status of Children Act, our Adoption Act passed in recent years are all extremely up to date. Our criminal code provides the protection of the criminal law. So there is no lack of laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines protecting children. What we lack, however, is the enforcement of the laws, the application of the laws to the given situation. We simply cannot afford the numbers of persons it takes to make those laws effective. And as I hinted before, whenever the laws are applied and persons are taken into custody and charged, in very many cases, they get off because of lack of evidence. I want to suggest to the Honorable Attorney General and the DPP's office that they perhaps should commission one of their staff to do a study of the laws of evidence and to see whether the laws of evidence should not be modified to make it less difficult to obtain convictions, particularly the law with regard to corroboration. Sometimes the laws are applied so rigidly that a clever lawyer can assist a guilty person getting off through using the loopholes and the technicalities of the law. Perhaps we need to study and see how some of those technicalities can be closed up. But the abuse of children is rampant, not just in St. Vincent and Grenadines. If you read any Caribbean newspaper, and I would urge many of my viewers that when you get on the internet to surf, take time off of the purely entertaining aspects of the internet and surf the internet from a point of view of learning something useful. If you go on the internet, there is a lot of useful information you can obtain about these matters. But I'm speaking to those who have an interest in edifying themselves and not just entertaining yourself using the internet or titillating yourself, depending on what programs you go to view. But there's a world of information that could be beneficial to us all if we divided our time and used some of it for educational purposes. These are days when education is all around us, and once you have access to television, and that television has access to the internet, the whole world of information is there. I wish the internet was around when I was a student. I probably would have bust my head with studying too much. But now, I can't leave the topic without mentioning one aspect of child abuse, which I will call reverse child abuse. Now, so far I have been speaking about the abuse of children. I want to take a few minutes to talk about the abuse by children. More specifically, the abuse of parents by children. I will give you one recent example of abuse that came to my attention. This was a young man who borrowed his mother's title deed to borrow money from the bank, has a job, neglected or refused or failed to pay back the loan, and the bank sold out his mother's house. The mother is now renting in a village far from where she used to live. That is child abuse. That is a child abusing his mother by sheer bad-mindedness. And a lot of this happens. Parents struggle to bring up their children. The children come, they get an education, and instead of turning back to assist their parents as the parents declining years and cannot really fend and make a living for themselves, they become very ungrateful and have their parents going to their graves in grief. That is child abuse, abuse by children. Children who sell out everything in their parents' home to finance a drug habit. They get hooked on crack and cocaine and other forms of drugs and are not working. So every single thing in the house they find, they put their hands on, they take it out, they go and sell it to unscrupulous people who know very well that these items have come from a home because they're sold for next to nothing. A fellow will take his mother's electric iron and go sell it for $10 or $15 to get money to go and buy drugs. That is child abuse, abuse by a child. of his parents. Until the time comes when there is nothing in the house, they sell furniture, everything that is capable of being removed. And if the parents or the guardians make a fuss, they are threatened with violence, and sometimes they are actually beaten. You would be amazed to know the number of parents who live as fugitives in their own homes because there is some young man in the home terrorizing the parents because the young man is hooked on drugs and his parents become slaves, or especially the mother. Father is too old to go with them physically because they threaten to knock down the father. And the mother just have to cry every day until eventually they die from grief. You know how many old people die from grief, not from medical ailment? Just grieve to death because they have been abused by the very children to whom they gave birth and nurtured and succored throughout their lives. And people know about these things, but again, people don't talk because you don't want to get yourself involved. So we have a lot of social problems, but with goodwill and with enlightenment, we should be able to tackle the worst examples of these things. So that is all from this program of The Law and You, program number 824. I look forward to being of further service to you week after next Monday, because not Monday coming is a holiday, Labor Day. So the following Monday, the 9th of May, that's when we will see again if it be the will of the Lord. So do have a very pleasant 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls. And may the good Lord continue to bless us all, and may He especially bless all our children.
The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.